in order to become a high value man is some sort of adversity in your life. So either that adversity and hardship is forced on you. For example, with me having to support and take care of a single mother, that was really not the easiest thing to come to terms with at the age of 8 or 9 years old. And without going into too much detail here, just having a very difficult upbringing to deal with and just going through and seeing a lot of things that just made me very angry and upset at the world at a very young age. So there's certain adversity, there's certain challenges that just force certain people to step up. And the unfortunate thing is 80% of the time when men are put through that, they don't step up. They don't pull up their boots and become the person they need to become to face the challenges. And that's just the unfortunate nature of the world. But you simply cannot be a high value man without putting yourself through the fire. I want you to wake up every single morning, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself honestly, would I follow this man into war? Stare in the mirror and be honest with yourself. What do you see? Now, I know some of you guys are looking at this and going, okay, well, I come from a middle class family or maybe even a wealthy family, or you may have just generally had a very cushy life in general. Well, that's fine as long as you force adversity and hardship on yourself. So whether that be small things, I remember even me when I was 15, 16, I used to do a bunch of cold approach and, it taught me a lot about how the world works. And as men, we all know that anxiety of like looking at a girl and being like, do I speak to her? Do I talk to her? All that stuff. So I did a lot of that growing up. And I think even that adversity shaped a lot of who I am today. I will never ever look at a girl 3 times. The first time I might look and acknowledge, oh wow, that's a very beautiful girl. The second time I might look over again. And at that point, I have to either make the decision, am I going to be man enough that night or that day to go up and say something and say hi and introduce myself, or am I not going to do it? But at least it's a skill that I don't think is necessarily too effective for the main goals that most guys want, but it is a skill that's very incredible and teaches you a lot about adversity and difficulty. So whether that's learning cold approach, whether that's running a marathon. I had a very difficult summer of 2020 where I had crippling anxiety attacks. And by the way, I'm a person that I've been meditating for the longest time ever. I would sit and I would meditate. I'm like, oh, I can just meditate away. No, it never went away. And the only thing I could think about for 3 weeks straight from morning to night was how I was going to delete myself. And there's a big difference between thinking about it and thinking about how you're going to do it. Once you start getting into the, hey, how am I going to do it? That's a very different level of severity. The reason I say that is because I made the decision, I am going to run a marathon in 2 weeks with no preparation. I'd never run more than 8 kilometers in my entire life. And I made the decision that in 14 days, I'm gonna run 42 kilometers with no training on a cold, rainy day in London in December with no flat roads or perfect route or anything. I felt like after the summer of 2020, after having a very difficult summer, I felt like I had nothing left. I didn't believe in me. I didn't believe in my powers. I didn't believe in how strong I was. So I had to put myself through something difficult to go, you can get through anything. If you can get through that, you can get through anything. So if you grew up with an amazing, loving families without too many difficulties, there's absolutely nothing wrong. That's beautiful. It's amazing you had that experience. It's amazing that you had a good reference for what a good childhood is, but you have to put yourself through the fire. You have to find a way. If I was starting out, if I was broke or I had very little money, if I had $5,000 in the bank account, right? And it was possible. Now I understand for a lot of you guys, you have family to deal with, you have a girlfriend to deal with, you have this to deal with, that to do, I understand. But if you can, book a ticket out to Austria, book a ticket out to some remote place in America, book a ticket out to Iceland, book a ticket out and stay for 3 months in a place which is super cheap, right? So you can get some apartment in the center of Austria, or if you want to go to even maybe like the center of Barcelona, you could get a decent place, like whatever it may be, and just be with yourself for 3 months. Get away from your friends, get away from the things, the day-to-day activities that you're doing which aren't bringing you the results you want. Get away from your family that's maybe whispering in your ear that this is a terrible idea. You need to just be isolated. And guys, you could just sacrifice 3-4 months in isolation, just being on your own, working on this thing that's gonna literally provide you for the rest of your life. That would be my advice for someone starting out, because I honestly think that's the most important thing. I think isolation is where you grow.